Hello and welcome to the 2s module. This module is designed to help orient you into the classroom and to address some of the common things that we see in the 2s classes. Some of this may be repetition. Maybe you've already worked in the classroom and have seen this or experienced some of it. You may have attended orientation and heard some of it, but that's okay. The more repetition we get, the more likely it is that it's going to be second nature when we're in the school. Let's talk about 2s specific items. When you come into the classroom after you've gotten everything all cleaned and ready and we're ready to go, the teacher will give you a specific center or activity to work on with the 2s. Now, there's going to be a lot of behaviors that you're going to see in the 2s. You may see children knocking things over haphazardly. You may see them just taking, the buckets of toys and dumping them on the ground. Those are normal behaviors for 2-year-olds. The things that we want to try to do is see if they're doing it purposefully. Are they dumping it out because they're trying to find the one red bear in the pile of bears? If so, we can help them find what they're looking for and then assist them with cleaning it up. Are they just going around the classroom just randomly dumping things, but there's not really any purpose or rhyme or reason to what they're doing? If that's the case, then we can help corral them, we can get them engaged in something, and then maybe we'll go behind and do the majority of the cleanup once the child is engaged in their play. Some of the things that you might see during the 2s class is crying due to separation anxiety or just a sad day in general. And that's really, really normal. Our kiddos are young. They're figuring out what it's like to be without mom or dad. And sometimes your kiddo might be fine for a week or 2 weeks and then start to experience a little bit of separation anxiety. And that's normal too. It's similar, even as adults, we feel some separation anxiety when we're away from our kids, or maybe the first couple of days of a vacation without our children feels really nice. And then we start to get a little homesick, and that's kind of what happens with them as well. So if your child does experience some separation anxiety or starts saying things like, I don't want to go to school, that is perfectly normal. Talk to your child's teachers about some different ways that you can help facilitate them and help make this transition into school a little bit easier. Now, when you're working in the classroom and there's a kiddo that's crying, what do? Well, there are 2. We pick them up, we love on them, we find out what they need. Do they need a little bit of extra love that day? Maybe they really like to read a book. Maybe their thing they like to do is clean or play with water. After the first couple days, the teacher, maybe even the other working parents might have some ideas of what that particular child likes to do and what will help engage them. So check in with your child's teacher, see what that child needs. Some children really need to be left alone. They need 3 minutes to cry it out, and then they're able to engage right in something and move on. So make sure you check to see kind of what the goal is and the plan is for that child. And always, 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 if you're concerned, make sure you talk to the teacher. Some other things that we might see in the 2s is a lot of water play. The 2s love to play in the sink. They love to play in the water dispenser. They love to play in the water outside. They love to play with the hose. So we want to limit the water play in the water dispenser. That water is for drinking, and that's exactly what I'll say. If a child is just kind of pushing the handle and letting it go, I'll say, oh, this is our drinking water. You may play with the water in the water table. You may play with the water in the hose. Or perhaps if they're really needing to kind of watch something flow, we could even turn on the water in the sink for a short period of time, and they can experience that with some dumping and pouring. If they're really wanting to dump and pour, maybe we can get out a tray with some pitchers of water and let them dump and pour that way. What we want to do is kind of meet their needs, but also avoid just kind of being super wasteful with our resources. Some children are still really attached to a lovey, some sort of blanket, or maybe a stuffed animal during this age. It's totally okay if they are experiencing some separation for them to bring that into class. Maybe you could say it can go into class, but it has to stay in your backpack. Or maybe it can come with us to school, but your lovey is going to stay in your seat and make sure it keeps your seat nice and warm until you get back. So we can work on that depending on the individual child and their needs. The one thing that we can't have at school is a pacifier or a binky. We don't have the facility to sanitize them, so we can't have those. If your child wants to bring in a cup, that would be fine, but we cannot have bottles. We're not licensed for that type of cleaning. If they do bring in a cup or a water bottle, it just has to be labeled with their name and it has to go home with them at the end of the day. One thing that you'll notice in the Choose, you may have thought, I'm going to enroll my child in preschool and they're going to make friends and they're going to start playing. Unfortunately, that's not always the case with 2-year-olds. We have a wide variety of play, and children at 2 are very egocentric. So what play looks like for children who are 2 may be that they're playing in the sensory table and one of their neighbors is playing in the sensory table. They're not talking. They're not playing the same game. Maybe they're not even doing the same thing, but they're standing next to each other. And that is definitely a form of play. They're interacting in the same space in the way that they're able to interact. And that may be what we'll see for some kiddos for the majority of the year. As they start to grow, and we'll touch a little bit more on this later on in the course, is what types of play are there and what that looks like. But I want you to be assured that if your child isn't immediately starting to make friends or talk about the other children, that is completely normal. A lot of children at 2 are very much observers. They're going to look and see, what's going on. And they might stand back and you might think, oh, they're feeling shy, or, they're here and they're not doing anything. But really take a look. Are they not doing anything, or are they just engaging in play through observation? Think about it as if you were to go into a party and you were a little uncomfortable, maybe you weren't sure all the social dynamics. You might just stand back a little bit and observe. You could still be enjoying yourself, still having a good time, but you're not like the life of the party at the moment. And that's fine. Children have different personalities, they go through different phases, and so we'll see children kind of interacting with other children and interacting with the environment in a lot of different ways. Another thing that you'll notice in the Choose class is a lot of repetition. There'll be, we might sing the same song for 2 weeks. We might be playing the same game, and then you come back in 3 weeks and that game is still out. And again, this research shows that this is how children learn, especially at 2. They're going to need to do something over and over and over and over and over again until we are done with it. I'm sure you've all had that experience, like reading your child's favorite book, and you're just like, oh my gosh, can we read something else? Because I'm so tired of reading this Dr. Seuss book. But they're not, because they're still experiencing, they're still getting something new out of it. So you'll see a lot of repetition in the Choose class. Now, one thing that we definitely see in the Choose class is a resistance to cleaning. A lot of children maybe aren't used to that. Maybe they haven't had that responsibility yet, or perhaps they're just young and don't really have a lot of experience with that. So when the cleanup music comes on, there's some things that you can do to help this. First, address a child specifically. Call them by name. Get down in the area that they're at. For some children, you may even want to grab their hand or put your hand around their shoulder and address them. Hi, Frankie. What are you going to clean up today? Then you're going to want to give them some choices. I see that the balls need to be cleaned up and the sensory table needs to be cleaned up. Which one do you want to help me with? A lot of times that's all a child needs, to be prompted, and they're going to get all the balls. Other times they'll say no and start to run away. So at that point, you can kind of corral them and say, you're welcome to go as soon as you help me clean up 2 balls, or as soon as you clean up the red balls. So again, you want to kind of set that expectation, a reasonable expectation, and then help them achieve that. Now, even after that, there may be a child who says no and runs away. Then you could say something along the lines of, don't worry, I'll help you, or I'll show you where it goes. And you can hold the child's hand, you pick up the red ball and you put it away. And then you go back and you find the next red ball and you say, here you go, you can do it this time. And so just those gentle ways of saying, these are the expectations and we do expect you to help during this time. For some children, they may only need to do that 1 or 2 times. For others, we may be working on the cleanup routine for the entire year. During music and movement, it is okay when we're out on the big patio with the 3s class if children do not want to participate. If they don't want to dance, if they don't want to do the finger play, that is okay. What I'm asking for you as working parents is to help keep them corralled. Let's keep them in the same area, because again, they can participate through observation. They can participate by watching what's happening, but what I don't want to see is a child in the mud bog while everyone else is at music and movement, because then they're not really participating in that at all. They're kind of doing their own thing over there. So you can help corral them. You can pick a child up. If a child is really resistant, you can have a teacher help you, or you can just say like, come dance with me, or I can hold your hand. Do you want to sit in my lap, or do you want to sit on the floor next to me? So again, giving lots of choices to kind of get them to just stay in that general area with us. And I mentioned having a child sit in your lap. That is perfectly okay. Sometimes you might have 3 children that want to sit on your lap, and that's okay too. We choose, our children need a lot of love, a lot of affection, a lot of physical redirection. Sometimes you'll see me like take a child and gently turn their shoulders in the direction I want them to look. Because not only do they need the verbal, but a lot of times they need to actually see what it is that we're wanting them to do. Couple other things that I just wanted to mention is that during snack time, our big goal in the 2s class is to get them to stay at the table. So we want them to stay at the table for 5 minutes if we can. We want them to eat at the table. Children come from a variety of backgrounds. Some people sit for a meal. Some people snack and nosh all day long and they move around their space. And for those children that have experienced that type of environment, it may be a little different to have to sit and eat. So what I do is if a child gets up and they still have snack on the table, is I'll redirect their body back to the table and say, are you all done? Or do you want to finish eating? And if they say they're all done, then I will have them pick up their snack and put it in the trash. What I don't want to do is for them to be on the other side of the room and for the adult to say, are you all done? They say yes, and the adult picks it up, throws it in the trash, but then the child comes back and they really weren't done with snack. And so then they feel like, oh, you threw away my snack. If they're throwing it away, then we really know that they're done. A lot of times they'll say, I'm done, but then they go back over and they sit down and they continue eating. So that's a good way. Are you all done? If you are, let's go throw your snack away. If a child is being potty trained, at that point, we'll have kind of a mandatory potty break. Not a, do you have to go potty, but we're going to go sit on the potty for a couple minutes. And then they can head on out to the yard after that. On the yard, our big goal is to just help them figure out how to maneuver amongst the older children, figuring out how to play on the equipment, how to play safely. And then when we're back in the classroom for our circle time at the very end, or for our small group activity at the very end, again, that's the time of day when they're the most tired. They're ready for mom and dad to come. So I need everyone to help gather the children, come back, sit at the circle, and help them engage in the activity that we're doing at the very end of the day. One of the most important things that I can't stress enough to you is that if you don't know what to do, just do something. Sit down and talk to a child, read a book, ask the teacher, am I doing everything right? Should I be doing something else? What else do you need? We really depend on you to be a part and an integral and important part of our curriculum and our classroom. So if you're feeling a little intimidated or a little unsure, you can't go wrong by reading a book, by singing a song, by sitting down to play a game, or just by asking for help.